I am not a huge fan of My Hero Academia. Let me be clear, I'm not a hater. I mean, I've seen the entirety of the anime so far, very legally of course, but I do have a lot of issues with the show. I'm not going into them right now though, this video would need to be several days long to go into the issues I have with this show's universe, but there is one issue that I can't ignore. One that is so big of an oversight that I had to make this video. Kathleen Bate, aka Stars and Stripes, is extremely OP. Now, I know she fucking dies in the show, and quite pitifully I might add, but Jesus Christ, her quirk is insane. Oh, right, for those who don't know, quirk is just a royalty-free way of saying superpowers. In the universe of the show, most people are born with one. Our protagonist doesn't have one, and is given one by All Might, who coincidentally also happened to have saved Kathleen in the past when she was a child. He inspired both Midoriya and Kathleen to become heroes. The rest of the story is not very important to understand the point of this video, but for now, what you need to know is that All Might lives in Japan, Midoriya is Japanese, and Kathleen is a full redneck American. An interesting approach to writing that My Hero Academia uses is that almost every single character in the show has to have some sort of development. They all have a history that they will end up sharing. It's probably supposed to make us feel like the characters are very much real and three-dimensional. Now, I appreciate the effort. I think it's quite the undertaking compared to all other shows and movies these days with one-dimensional cookie-cutter characters. It is admirable and honestly a fresh break to get rid of tropey characters which we assume their background based on their commonly understood archetypes. Problem is that the show spends a lot of time in extended flashbacks to show us how far our characters have come. It's better than no history, and I understand that juggling so many characters is very difficult to do in a show with only 7 seasons of 20-minute episodes. I guess. Where the show blunders is when it tries to give characters that suck a history. The issue is a character that is terrible on its face cannot get any better with added history, because for some characters they cannot become what they are without already being this awful, unless you add some sort of clause like, oh, they went crazy. And in some cases, you end up with terrible characters that I hate both on screen and in their history. Who am I talking about? Oh, you know, Gentle the pedophile and his totally not supposed to be underage bitch of a girlfriend La Brava, Toga, Compress, Twice, Hikishi, Dobby, to a certain extent even Tomura. The League of Villains is quite the shitty roster. Not to say that they aren't supposed to be bad, but I cannot stand when the show tries to garner sympathy from me when I fucking hate them. You gotta understand, you are showing me murdering, kidnapping, disgusting assholes that happily attack children, and you expect me to feel bad for them when they suffer. Reminds me of another bit of media that tried that. Every time I see them struggle, it's a gift. And every time they make it out of their struggles alive, all I'm thinking is, why? Tomura uses his never-ending rage to keep surviving and going on? Cool. Can he die now? This is retarded. This video is not about them. Let's get this over with quick. Gentle is an asshole who hurts innocence because he doesn't want to be forgotten. Okay, Elliot Roger. La Brava is a loser who is in love with some pedophile. Cool, can't wait till she dies. Toga. She's the embodiment of why anime sucks. Can we kill this yandere trope already? Her even being alive makes no sense and she should have been killed by someone shooting her in the head already. I love how the anime tries to pretend that she's some sort of great villain, like some sort of wild card. Just fucking shoot her in the fucking mouth, you assholes. Also, why does she constantly try to garner sympathy? I don't care that you can't help being a bitch. How about you stop being one and die? Compress is as shallow as he's annoying. Trying to showcase some sort of greatness because of some history his family has? Seriously, how does he fucking fly? His quirk is supposed to be compressing shit into marbles, no? Twice is retarded. His self-righteous attitude is disgusting. You commit crimes and then dare to call yourself a victim of the world you live in? I'm glad you're dead. Hikashi, I mean, his backstory is pretty funny.
It is man!
Dobby has always been psychotic and I don't care what he says. Some tween telling the audience that Endeavor lit this fire under him? Shut up. You want to be the best and hurt everybody around you. That's why you do it. Tomura sucks, not because his story is bad. I think it's great. I actually love the idea of kids that are born powerful, so powerful that they kill their families. It makes sense in this world, but his existence makes no sense. I don't care what anyone says. Heroes existed for long enough to find a homeless child and save him. No one in their right mind would believe that this universe's characters didn't find this child wandering and left him to suffer. Okay, that's about 5% of what pisses me off with this show. Now let's get back to the main point. Kathleen Bate. Why is she OP? Her quirk, of course. Her body is nothing more than a dumb character design, probably to replicate All Might, which she admits she does anyways. One thing I love about the show is that we are given the 999,992nd flashback where we see her wonder why she can't power herself up to the level of All Might using her quirk, and she laments that it could be because she's a woman. Thankfully, her brothel of bros tell her she's being dumb for assuming that. The reality is that she can't be as strong or stronger than All Might, because then Midoriya wouldn't need to beat Tomura or All for One, because then she would do it, because All Might should be able to beat them, because All Might has the same quirk as Midoriya. It's great when a show tries to make a point a character issue or limitation when the meta makes way more sense. Now her quirk is called New Order, which is a quirk that allows its user to change the rules of everything that she touches. I repeat, it's a quirk that allows its user to change the rules of anything that she touches. I'll repeat, it's a quirk that allows its user to tell me that is not OP as fuck. Now, My Hero Academia recognizes that some quirks are super strong, and so they make it so that every quirk has some sort of drawback or limitation. You have an indestructible demon inside you that can do basically anything without suffering any damage to you or to itself, but you can't be in the light for too long because it's weaker when exposed to light, and if it's too dark it's harder to control because it's a literal demon, except in the latter seasons for some reason. You can create anything non-living using your fat cells, but you need to understand the base molecules and how they come together. Also, you can't create infinite things because you run out of fat. Wait, why is Yaoyorozu not obese? You can create infinite copies of yourself and others, but your copies are weaker after each generation and you need precise measurements. Now, what are New Order's limitations? She can only have 2 rules applied at once. Why 2? Well, because she needs to for the spectacle of the show to work. Also, she needs to mention the name of the thing the rule will be applied to. Now, some of you might say that these limitations make the quirk not OP. And to that I say, hogwash! Erroneous! Her quirk is OP even with these limitations. Her use of her power was weak and pathetic. The first rule she changes is the air in front of her for a certain distance will become unbreathable. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but air is a collection of unconnected molecules, is it not? Meaning that the air she's touching is nowhere near enough to make her power work. Also, air is not a good definition of the atmosphere in front of her. She would need to be a lot more specific for her power to be consistent, because later on she touches Tomura and says the name, and states a new rule: if he moves, his heart will stop. Effectively, this is murder, by the way, but no one seems to care, so fuck it. Now, this rule doesn't apply because Tomura doesn't self-identify as shut up. I'm sorry, but that doesn't make any sense either. We have a clear view into Tomura's mind. He believes that his body is his own. I would agree if the idea was that his DNA is no longer his own DNA and she needs to be more specific, meaning she would need to mention every single individual's DNA to make her quirk work. Quirk. But the show specifically mentions self-identification. Tomura self-identifies as Tomura. He believes his body is his own, and that's what he wants. Even though it's no longer the case, his way of identifying himself is what the rule states. But I would take a step further and tell Mrs. America that she should not be specific beyond what is necessary. Just say that this entity I just touched, blah 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 blah. Why is that not enough? Is the term air enough? The limitations just don't make sense. Also, if she can mention air, why does she not just say, anything living in this airspace in front of me will die because of the air that they ingest? But no, because apparently another limitation is that the quirk can only work when mentioning everyone and everything needed to make it work. But the issue is that she was able to control the existence of breathable air, both without touching it and without mentioning the specific needs that the air has to become that way. What do I mean? Well, what makes air unbreathable? The lack of oxygen molecules. So what she did is more likely either transform or disappear the oxygen molecules ahead of her without touching them and without mentioning them. I can understand her being able to do that to an individual or a solid, but air is not an item. It's a collection of unconnected items that share a space instead of a consistently understood volume. You see the problem here? Her quirk is insanely strong. Honestly, the best way to describe the rules is as such. She can change the rules of anything that she touches changes as long as she understands it to be the same item regardless of the reality of said item, except when the show wants not to do that. Also, let's not ignore the whole kill everyone in that airspace thing. I know that Tomura wasn't touched and you can't influence what you didn't touch, but the simple fact is that you are influencing Tomura's well-being by changing the air to not be breathable. So saying that the air will explode in a controlled fashion and not spread outside of a safe area to me and to the pilots, but at the strength of two universes colliding is fair game. And that would probably kill Tomura. I don't know, his power level makes no sense. I mean, seriously, she would have killed him of asphyxiation if he didn't move, wouldn't she have? And does that not mean that she influenced another item without touching it? I mean, think about it. She wouldn't even be able to use her quirk on the air the way she did, even if Tomura wasn't there, because she's killing bacteria and viruses and different microorganisms that are floating around in the air while she's doing that, isn't she? If they require oxygen. But let's assume that the rules weren't broken in that first encounter with Tomura and her. And let's assume that she wasn't able to kill him when she was in her bed in the US by just touching the air and saying that the air in these coordinates specifically will kill anyone who's in it. Why does she lose to Tomura after sending the missiles right at him? Because he dug himself deep in the earth? Cool bro, cool bro. But you remember that there is a hole above you, right? Also, you know that even if you dig a hole extremely fast using decay, you can't fall in it fast enough, right? You're being hit with what I assume are about 10 nuclear bombs straight to your noggin. Motherfucker, you are dead. Also, why does she not state that the missiles will hit a living thing in this general area? And before you tell me my rules, you need to realize that she is controlling about 10 missiles at the same time with her quirk, even though she is neither touching any of them, nor is she controlling just one missile. She says it right there, the missiles will be redirected, so yeah, her writing fell down the drain. No wonder they got rid of her as soon as she was introduced. She is very difficult to write for without breaking the rules. After that, she kinda gives up and dies. Didn't think to make it so that her body cannot be decayed by any quirk, huh? Women. Tomura steals her quirk and decays her, but she decides to change her quirk's rules so that it attacks and destroys any quirk that is in the same body. Now, question. Does her quirk work Does her quirk work permanently? As in, when she makes a rule and dies, does that rule never change? In that case, the air that is shaped as her should still be shaped as her. As she falls to her death, the air would fall too and take anything down with it. But it doesn't. The planes are fine. On top of that, can't Tomura change the rule the second he gets it? Like, fucking try it, bro. You have the quirk now, and you seem to understand it perfectly well. Try to stop it. You can do that now. I think the worst part of that is that as Tomura's quirks are being destroyed, we don't see any quirks that matter get destroyed. Like the fucking wings. Her quirk is insanely strong while inside him. She is destroying about a quirk a second. There is no way he still has any quirk by the time he gets anywhere. But of course he survives and is somehow able to escape. Tomura is like a centipede. It doesn't matter what you do to it, it will survive a long fucking while. Well, at least centipedes can be burned. Unlike this Still like this show, we'll finish it most likely.